Ah, well, it's good to see you all. And since this is the solstice, I wanted to open with a solstice blessing by Christina Countryman. And let's see here. There we go. In recognition of the blessing of being alive on this beautiful planet, with great gratitude, I honor the four directions. To the east and all that lies in that direction, may the air and oceans enfold you in glorious beauty, and all creatures thrive upon your shores in health and harmony. Blessed be. To the south and all that lies in that direction, may your mountains and rivers wash clean water to the sea, and your lakes and forests shelter all who dwell there. Blessed be. To the west and all that lies in that direction, may the big sky of your plains sparkle with crystal clarity and gift all life with healing rains and glorious sunshine. Blessed be. And to the north and all that lies in that direction, may your midnight sun shine upon a planet filled with hope and the possibility of a peaceful world be made real. Blessed be. And now, if you'll grab your candle or your chalice, and let's do our chalice lighting together here. We light our flaming chalice to illuminate the world we seek. In the search for truth, may we be just. In the search for justice,
may we
be loving. And in loving, may we find
peace.
So in the spirit of those words of peace, guide us into a meditation by Eileen Karpeles. So I invite you now to, wherever you are, settle into your chair and relax, or your couch. Get a little comfortable. Close your eyes if you're comfortable doing so, and just relax. Take a deep breath or two. Long, slow breaths in and out. And in the middle of all of this turmoil and craziness, find that still center, the heart of your being, and rest there. And let us join in a spirit of quiet meditation. Let peace flow into you. Let it calm your troubled self, heal your needy self, help your angry self to remember to listen fully and compassionately to the other. Let peace flow around you until you walk with peace and speak words of peace and reflect all the radiance of this beautiful world. Let peace flow through you and beyond you. Let peace guide you and fill you with wisdom. Let it be the bridge that connects you, not just with people of goodwill, but also with people whose hearts are centered in their own needs and desires, who are not yet free to bring peace into their hearts. Let peace fill the world. Let it begin now, here, today. We ask this in the name of that power that dwells within us and beyond us, the power called by many names in many times and places, but whose universal name is love.
Moving poem to share and reflect on this day is entitled Weather by Claudia Rankin. On a scrap of paper in the archive is written, "I have forgotten my umbrella." Turns out in a pandemic, everyone, not just the philosopher, is without. We scramble in the drought of information held back by inside traders. Drop by drop. Face covering? No. Yes. Social distancing? 6 feet under for underlying conditions. Black. Just us and the blues kneeling on a neck with the full weight of a man in blue. 8 minutes and 46 seconds. In extremis, I can't breathe, gives way to asphyxiation, to giving up this world, and then mama, called to. A call to protest, fire, glass, say their names. Say their names. White silence equals violence. The violence of, again, a militarized police force tear gassing, bullets ricochet, and civil unrest taking it, burning it down. Whatever social contracts keep us social, compel us now to disorder the disorder. Peace. We're out to repair the future. There's an umbrella by the door, not for yesterday, but for the weather that's here. I say weather, but I mean a form of governing that deals out death and names it living. This time, nothing. I say weather, but I mean a November that won't be held off. This time, nothing. No one forgotten. We are here for the storm that's storming because what's taken matters.
Thank you, Mary. So this picture behind me is of the Green River in Utah, entering into Desolation Canyon, or not, yeah, Desolation Canyon. And some of you may know that Suzanne and I got lucky, and we pulled a permit to raft this river, which comes down through central Utah. And the trip is 84 miles through remote wilderness. And so other than by raft or canoe or kayak, physical access to the river is limited. There are a couple of four-wheel drive roads and a few pack trails. And about halfway down, there's a field large enough to land a small plane. And there is no cell service and there is no internet. And once you leave the launch site, you're on your own. You're isolated from the world. Embarking on such a wilderness trip safely requires good equipment, training, and it helps to have experience, because you never know quite what you'll encounter. Wilderness is not predictable. Between you and the takeout are many unknowns. The potential for accidents, wild animals, and the whims of the river. What awaits you at the other end is also unknown. And I'm thinking specifically of a number of trips down the Colorado River through the Grand Canyon that launched just before the arrival of the COVID-19 pandemic. They emerged into a world very different from the one they'd left just a few short weeks before. There was no transition, no warning, just the drivers of the pickup crew saying, "You better sit down. We've got something to tell you about this new world that awaits you." Change is a curious thing, or rather, how we process change is a curious thing. Too much change is unsettling. Too little lulls us into complacency. We're wired to most notice rapid changes, an untimely death, the arrival of a pandemic, an economic disruption, the sudden cloudburst. We most notice changes where there's a gap in the timeline, like that niece we haven't seen in years who is suddenly all grown up. Gradual changes tend to sneak up on us, and they can catch us out if we aren't paying attention. So change was very much on our minds the last day of our trip as we approached the takeout. What would the world be like now? What would have changed, if anything? What miracles, what disasters might have occurred in the week we were gone? Would civil war have broken out? A vaccine for the virus be found? The second coming of Christ? An alien invasion? Or just more of the same? Which is what we encountered. The highways were full of RVs. Moab was swamped with tourists. There were lines at the gas stations. The restaurants were packed. Typical early summer in the Canyonlands. But underneath it all, there was an edginess. There was a hint of belligerence, a touch of defiance, as people sought normalcy. Not a cloud in the sky, but it felt like storm clouds gathering on the horizon. A change in the air, the faint scent of rain, the pressure dropping, big weather on the way. An old era is passing. Past ways of making sense of and ordering the world are no longer working, and something new is coming. Now, what that is remains to be seen. There's a lot in play. Climate change, population stresses, economic and technology shifts, political realignments, ecological collapse, social change, the fall of empires, and long overdue justice. I believe we are entering what may be the most dynamic time in human history. Those who see or sense us coming really want things to play out their way. But I don't think it's possible because it's all too big. And it's not something that can be controlled by mere mortals or their governments or corporations, kind of like Mother Nature. And anyone who tells you that they are driving this bus is either a fool or a liar. And this great systemic change is going to reach into every nook and cranny of our lives. There's no hiding from it. Things are going to be very unsettled for a long time until some new stability emerges. Which brings me to a lovely and very practical saying from Sweden, something taught to every child from an early age. There's no such thing as bad weather, only the wrong clothes. Swedish parents want their kids outside every day, and while they can't choose or change the weather, they can teach their kids to put on appropriate clothing, their rain jacket or their snowsuit or their shorts, and get outside and play. And for adults, there's a similar lesson. There's no such thing as bad weather, only the wrong gear, the wrong preparation, the wrong attitudes. On the river, as in life, accidents happen, injuries occur, things break. And in these situations, waiting for help or rescue is not always an option. You have to be prepared to fend for yourself and those with you. And over many years on the river, we've had to deal with head traumas and twisted ankles, near drownings, anaphylactic shock, punctured rafts, hypothermia, serious infections, encounters with bears and other fun critters, and a host of other situations. And a drugstore first aid kit and a tube of super glue just won't cut it. You require the best you can afford. And the best repair kit or the best first aid kit won't do you any good if you don't know how to use them. And there are skills also born of experience and training: how to safely run rapids, how to rescue in swift water, how to right a flipped raft weighing half a ton or more. And more dangerous than not having or knowing any of these can be your attitude toward the river, toward the other people you're traveling with, and your own belief that you and those you travel with can meet whatever comes up. And the wrong attitudes can kill you just as certainly as drowning. And I relate all this because I think we are heading into the storm-tossed unknown, and there are questions here for all of us. What is the right gear? What is the appropriate clothing, the garb, spiritual, physical, mental? How do we prepare? What are the attitudes that are going to get us through? Here in the American West, rivers like the Green and the Colorado cut deep canyons through time. They start in younger strata, mere millions of years old, and cut their way down into older rocks. The bottom of the Grand Canyon, some of those are 1 billion years old. But sometimes we encounter strata that have been jumbled and folded and fractured and transformed by heat and pressure, where ancient layers lie exposed on top of younger rocks, revealing deeper secrets out of turn. History is a little bit like that. Things we thought were buried and forgotten suddenly emerge into the light. It's a privilege to be able to enjoy a certain amount of political and economic predictability in our lives. The steady paycheck, the stable job, perhaps some savings to fall back on, a bit of government support. This is a privilege not always present for many in the past or many in the present, where a missed paycheck or an unforeseen medical bill is a life-shattering disaster. And even that small privilege has rarely been the norm. The storms of history make that clear. If your ancestors, like mine, came from Europe, they lived through years of wars that swept back and forth across the landscape, bringing disease and disaster. The men were conscripted or killed by whatever army happened to be passing through. The women were raped and abused. The harvest and animals were seized because that was how armies fed themselves, off the people and the land. And this went on for hundreds of years, and it's deeply etched into the European psyche. And that trauma and that behavior was exported to the Americas and the rest of the world. And it marked almost every interaction with the indigenous peoples and the enslaved. And it was repressed and buried under the American mythos. And the passage of time is again revealing those rocks upon which our society is foundering. Conflict and political and economic instability have really been the norm throughout much of human history. Long periods of stability and predictability are the exception, and we seem to be reverting to the norm, which is not necessarily a bad thing. I'm reminded of a story from years ago about a young man who bought one of those fancy new vans, you know, with the captain's chairs and the little fridge and the table, and it's got the little VCR in it at the time. Cruise control was just being introduced, and it had that too. This young man took that van out on the highway and he got it up to speed and he set the cruise control and he went in the back to have a Coke and a snack. Things were fine as long as the road was straight. But as soon as that van hit the first curve, well, you can pretty much guess what happened. Kid was lucky to survive, but he did. Probably because he was so relaxed. It's a true story, by the way. I heard it on Paul Harvey on my way up to a Rolling Stones concert in 1977. So anyway, it's dangerous to be on cruise control sometimes. And I've always been suspicious of the phrase, "It's different this time," because mostly it isn't, and things seem to turn out in pretty familiar ways. But for the first time in a long time, I'm thinking that maybe it might be true. It is different this time, partly because of the complexity and scale of what's coming, but also because the world is more different than anything in the past. Human nature hasn't changed, but we're connected and interdependent in more ways than before. And so far, that seems to have amplified our worst, but it may also amplify our best. That remains to be seen, but the hope is there as we embark upon these unknown waters. So it's time to turn off the cruise control. Stop being on autopilot and start asking each other the necessary questions for the trip. What is the right gear? How do we prepare? What are the attitudes that will get us through? Now, I don't have answers, but over the years, I've learned a couple of things. The first is that the circle is far wiser than any one of us alone. We need a pack, a team, a pod, a caravan to travel with and to be wise together with. trust, communication, and generosity are key. And the second is that it's important to start out joyfully, even if you don't know quite where you're going or how you'll get there. We create the destination by traveling together. May it be so. Our closing words today come to us from one of my faves, John O'Donohue. It's called For Citizenship. In these times when anger is turned into anxiety and someone has stolen the horizon and mountains, our small emperors on parade never expect our indifference to disturb their nakedness. They keep their heads down and their eyes gleam with reflection from aluminum economic ground. The media wraps everything in a cellophane of sound, and the ghost surface of the virtual overlays the breathing earth. The industry of distraction makes us forget that we live in a universe. We have become converts to the religion of stress and its deity of progress, that we may have courage to turn aside from it all and come to kneel down before the poor to discover what we must do, how to turn anxiety back into anger, how to find our way home. If you'll join me in the words of extinguishing our chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth,
Truth.
the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. May love and skill.
May love and skill.
Sorry. Hang on, let me start over here. May love and skill be in our hands.
May love and skill be in our hands.
May love and courage fill our hearts.
May love and courage fill our hearts.
May love and wisdom light our minds.
May love and wisdom light
our minds.
May love flow through us and walk among us.
May love
flow through us and walk among us.
We live our lives.
We live our
We
lives.
work to heal our world.
Work to heal our world.
Amen. Amen. Blessed be. Go in peace.
Amen.
Thank you.